Hi everyone, my name is Joe. I'm coming to you today live from my garden. It's quite early morning, so I'm trying not to speak too loudly because I don't want to wake up neighbours. Finding as I get older, I just really find I connect with God this time of day in nature, either in the garden here, just looking at the birds and the plants and all that stuff, or just taking a little walk up into the woods near us. Again, just the older I get, I feel the more and more I connect with God through nature rather than anything else. I'd like to have filmed this in the woods, but I couldn't seem to quite make it work. Anyway, Dave asked if I'd do a little devotion for you, so here I am giving it a go. My apologies, I feel unworthy to do such a task, but the thing that cropped to mind was a couple of things. One is, I don't know if any of you are on social media. I've got a kind of love-hate affair with social media. Mostly I hate it, but I find I can't really give it up. I want to know what's going on. I like seeing pictures of my friends. I like catching up with people. But I've noticed more and more there's so much outrage, there's so much anger, there's so much polarization of views, and I genuinely worry about what it does to my heart and to other people's hearts. You know, are we becoming more angry, discontent, cynical people, I wonder sometimes. And I also wanted to reach out to those of you today who may sort of struggle with the Bible. Again, the Bible is a bit of a love-hate relationship. You know, sometimes the Bible seems absolutely wonderful and you kind of trove the depths of its treasures. And other times it just seems to be, you know, sort of violent, or let's face it, large parts of it seem pretty irrelevant, and you don't go there. And I wanted to talk to you today a bit about an experience of mine where I was just going through one of those periods where I was really off the Bible. And this isn't good if you're a Baptist minister, by the way, as well. And you know, I was really just struggling to get into it for whatever reasons. And so I wanted to commend a little practice to you that is an alternative to giving up and never opening it. And one of the books that I'm really fond of in the Bible is the book of Colossians, and it's that book where at the beginning Paul sort of just goes off on one, really, on a sort of overflowing hymn of praise about the cosmic Christ. And I love this talk. You know, yeah, all things were made by him, through him, for him. You know, everything is held together by Christ. And we get this impression that Christ is just the creative force behind the universe. And I love this because, again, as I get older, I kind of want a faith that sort of makes sense of science and all we're learning about the world and the universe and its origins as well. So it's a really key book for me. And Paul goes on to talk about living for God in that. And there's, in this lovely chapter, it's Colossians chapter 3, there's a verse 12 it is. And so I want to commend this verse to you. If you are one of those people that never really opens the Bible, never reads the Bible, this was the only verse I read for 3 months of my life. This is about, I think it's about 8 or 9 years ago now. And I'm not one for memorising scripture. In fact, I often think I've got a terrible memory, to be honest. But one verse, it turns out, is actually manageable. And I'll give it a go. I'll probably get it wrong. But this verse says, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. So let's just run through those 5 words again. And firstly, there's a lot of good stuff about being God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved. And you know, another time I'll probably just talk about how much of my life I have not felt holy and dearly loved at all. In fact, I feel I've been trying to earn God's love, but that's another story for another time. But just focusing on those 5 words: compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And those aren't words that kind of necessarily immediately grab me. Most of my life I've kind of been quite a type A personality, and I sort of, if I wanted a list of things, I'd want them to be like, risk-taking, boldness, go-getting, those kind of words, kind of a bit more manly. Dave and I sometimes joke about men's ministry. I mean, men's ministry is fantastic and the whole movement, but sometimes it feels like, you've got to kind of talk a bit like Jason Statham, and you've got to go into a field somewhere and make fire, talk about following Jesus, which, it doesn't really work if you're not a very macho type like me. Anyway, I digress. So there's these 5 words that, this is just a verse that's easily overlooked, but I for some reason, and I don't really know why, and perhaps we might call it the Holy Spirit, I decided that this is the verse. I'm just going to latch on to this verse for 3 months, and I'm going to look at those 5 words, and I'm going to do a study on them, and I'm going to see how it relates to my life. I was working with an organisation called Renovare at the time, and I'm so grateful to them because they really taught me that the Christian life is not about trying, it's about training. If you just get caught in this try harder to follow Jesus and then you fail and you feel like you're a sinner and you get caught up in this whirlpool of guilt, you feel like you're just such a rubbish Christian the whole time and you're beating yourself up. And they said, no, that's not how it should work at all. In Old Testament times, when you followed a rabbi, it wasn't a question of just reading all their books and writing essays and then you knew everything. It was about learning to become like them, and you try it a step at a time. You would literally just learn bit by bit by bit. And they said the Christian life is like that. It's like learning to walk. You don't give up on that. Or learning to speak for the first time. And following Jesus is the same. You train a bit at a time. So clothing yourselves with compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience is something you have to train to do. And clothing, you don't naturally wear clothes. You have to put them on every day. Well, I suppose you should do, really. But so there's this idea is that actually every morning you intentionally kind of put on those things. And I don't know that I've been particularly good at any of those things historically, but I know that I want to be good at them. And I have found just take one of them, like kindness. I don't know you, but I do feel I know something about you, and here it is. The one thing that you could really do with today is kindness. And I don't know the people you live with, assuming you do live with someone, but if you do live with someone, I can tell you something about them. They could really do with some kindness today, because most of us have a well-developed sense of how rubbish we are and how we fail and how we need to do better. But kindness brings something to us that is so transformational. And I've been married to Rachel. We just had our 36th wedding anniversary. It is a grace. People seem to think she deserves a medal, and they may well have a point. And Rachel's still upstairs asleep, I think. But I do know this about Rachel. Whatever her day is like today, it will be enhanced by me being kind to her. So this is like a masterclass in relationships. Who am I to give a masterclass in relationships to anyone? But it is transformational. And the same with the other things, patience and gentleness. Those are things that forgive me, sometimes they can sound a bit like weak things, but they are genuinely the things that bring transformation to our lives. And actually, the person who most needs it right now is you. I often think like the person who's not being kind to you often is not your, boss or, a strange partner or the church even. It's you. You have got to learn to be a bit kind to yourself and gentle with yourself and patient with yourself. And how on earth can you give this out to other people if you don't do it for yourself first? And kindness, I cannot stress enough, is it is transformational, and it touches my heart every time now. I mean, I wasn't a great weeper in films, but nowadays I'll cry at anything. Paddington 2. Have you seen Paddington 2, the end of that film? Uh, it, why does kindness touch my heart so much? Because I think it reflects something of who God is and how God is with me. I genuinely think that's the theological truth at the heart of it. Oh, there's another film called Wonder. It's a beautiful film, and I'm sure some of you have seen it. And one of Mr. Brown's precepts is, if you are given the choice between being right or being kind, choose kind. I wish that was in the Bible, and I wish I'd heard it earlier. I wish some of the people I've encountered in my life had lived in the light of that wisdom. I really do, and I am trying to. And like I say, it's a training process. You start small. You know, how do you be patient with someone on the road when they've just cut up in front of you? You know, most of us, you know, our instinctive response is to give them, you know, kind of the ancient sign of the peace or whatever. And that's fair enough. I understand that. But what if you could train yourself to have a different response? What if your instant response wasn't anger? You know, is it actually possible to bless someone in those circumstances? And this may sound ridiculous. It's a bit like patience. And we used to do this exercise where we'd ask people to, when they go to the supermarket, to queue in the longest queue instead of the shortest queue, and then maybe to let someone go in front of them. I don't know how that would work nowadays with social distancing and everything, but it's a strange thing, and it's strange what it does to the inside of you when you live this way, when you don't live quite so rushed and so inside your head and so full of your own agendas, when you're watchful and mindful of other people, and you're living in this sense that actually I can treat these people like God does and like God treats me. So that's really it today. All I wanted to do was to wish you well, to encourage you to, you know, I know no amount of me saying you are God's children, holy and dearly loved, will make you actually believe that you are. But if you can train yourself to start living this way, you may find that you do start to believe it more and more, because God really does love you. And there is a kind of mission, for want of a less churchy word, for us to get involved in, and it is to clothe ourselves with compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience, and to treat one another that way. And I think it will transform the world of social media, it will transform us, and it will transform our relationships if we can learn to be it. So I encourage you to go to that verse. If you're someone that doesn't open the Bible like me, for long periods of time, sometimes go to that verse, put it up somewhere, write it down, memorize it, internalize it. I hope you will find it changes your life the way it had a very, very significant impact on me. Thanks for listening. Cheers. Bye.